I'm Tom Vessel.
I'm Z Garcia. Hello.
I'm Mike DeLisio.
And I'm Roy Kennedy.
Today it's Marvel vs. Marvel. Or, well, two different Marvel games that a lot of people ask us about because they're both cooperative card games.
Okay.
One has been out for about 5 years now, Marvel Legendary.
So phase one. Okay.
That's true. From Upper Deck, which has had probably 15 plus expansions for it. It's a deck-building cooperative game. The other just came out last year, Marvel Champions, which is a living card game which is essentially the same thing, and just the expansions are smaller.
Right.
From Fantasy Flight Games. The difference, there are quite a few differences, honestly. I don't think they're very similar games, other than they're both card Marvel. Do we agree on that?
Yeah,
correct.
They're not really similar games
And cooperative,
at all, I think.
Yeah, but they do not feel similar at all while playing.
I mean, you do have the fact that both games are trying to defeat a mastermind or bad guy to win. So, I mean, there are some similarities in that, but the mechanics overall...
Yeah, I think the similarities are all thematic.
The thematics are very much the same.
The
it's not like
experience is nothing similar, I don't think.
Yeah, well, the biggest difference, honestly, is in Marvel Champions, you are a superhero. You pick it, Spider-Man, Captain Marvel, whoever it is. And in Marvel Legendary, you pick 5.
You are a deck of cards.
Correct.
Right, you pick 5 heroes, you're mixing them together, and you're all controlling the same heroes.
Yes.
You start as like SHIELD agents recruiting all of these heroes to your team. And as you go through, you get more guys as you're recruiting them and everything like that.
Sure.
That's what you're doing.
Deck building.
No, okay, look. The fact of the matter is I'm pretty confident to say, while I think both games are fine, that Marvel Champions has a stronger theme in it.
Yeah. I mean,
only in that comparison. I wouldn't say it has a strong theme. I think in the comparison to Legendary, it has a stronger theme.
Yeah.
the only thematic connection I feel when playing Marvel Champions, which I've not played as much as you or you.
No one has played Marvel Champions as much as Roy.
I've played a lot.
The only thematic connection I feel is that I feel like sometimes they made the powers somewhat thematic to what that character is supposed to do.
Yeah.
I think they've at least attempted to do that so that, you know, a lot of allies for with Black Panther, right, and things along those lines. So that's a nice thematic touch, I think.
We also have to realize that at the end of the day, the one game has a 5-year head start on the other.
for sure.
So at this point, Marvel Legendary is releasing expansions, and they definitely have released expansions with very esoteric characters, some that only appeared in a couple comic books.
Oh, for sure.
In fact, if you want to play a superhero in Marvel Legendary, they're almost all there, at least of the big ones that people like. You know,
they duplicate a lot of them too. It's like, how many different versions of Iron Man or Wolverine can you have? Tons.
Apparently not enough, right? The latest one was minor characters. I mean, they're characters, but they're characters from S.H.I.E.L.D.
Right.
Okay.
You know, I don't think we're going to reach that in Marvel Champions for a really long time.
Yeah, they definitely have a lot more content and a lot more time they can make all of these decks. So
I guess we should start out though by, I mean, what are our opinions on both? We'll start with Mike. Like, where do you like both games? Which one do you like better?
Okay, I feel like I'm going to be the contrarian, the odd man out here, in that I don't particularly enjoy either game. I prefer...
Who invited him?
Right, I know. I prefer Marvel Legendary, and the main reason why is that I feel like it is less convoluted of a system. When I'm playing Marvel Champions, I get bogged down in all of the card texts and all of the abilities and all of the this triggers that, this triggers that. You have to know your deck really well, I feel like, to feel somewhat proficient. Whereas with Marvel Legendary, I feel like it's a deck building game. And that's a much simpler system to wrap my mind around. I'm familiar with it more. My main issue with both games is really in the structure of it. I don't love collectible card games. I don't like living card games. And I feel like Marvel Legendary, like you said, has almost become one because they put the expansions out so much. That's just me as a gamer, I suppose. I don't particularly love when I feel like I'm always having to catch up to content. So that's a quirk of
You do love the
mine.
Marvel Universe.
I do like, well, I like it almost.
I was about to come over to the table.
I do like it a lot. I don't like it as much as DC, but that's all right. Hey, look, the characters, you know.
That's why we had him go first. All right.
Who did invite him? Okay.
I know.
I kind of don't feel that dissimilar than you do, to be honest. I wouldn't say I don't care for either. You kind of said I don't care for either that much. I would say I like both fine. And I would say, though, that I like Marvel Champions better. I do think it's a little more original. It's a little splashier. Just, at this point, I find Marvel Legendary to be a bit of a tired horse. It's deck building. It's showing its age. To me, it is anyway.
But oddly enough, you like Legendary Encounters.
I like Legendary Encounters more. I got rid of it.
Oh, okay.
And I never owned Marvel Legendary. I just found it to not be very thematic, not particularly interesting of a system. And deck building runs out of runway with me real soon. I think Marvel Champions is also kind of a weaker version of other living card games that I like better than it. But between the two, I do like it better, and I do think they seem to, that team, that system, that game seems to show more promise at this point in its lifespan than Legendary, I would say, did when it was just a few months in.
Well, I like Marvel Legendary better, although I've had more time with it, but there's a couple reasons. One, I love deck building. I know that you're getting tired of it, but I still love it, and I love the fact that, they could have stopped Marvel Legendary 3 years ago, and I would never have played all the combos. At this point, it's just getting silly.
That's the issue.
There's so many combos. I like the fact, I even like that they did the villain side for a while. They ended that really quickly, but it still fits in with the set. Now they're just... You'll have villains be heroes, and they'll just do that. They don't care.
Can you play as a villain fighting that same villain as the villain? Like, can you be a hero villain?
There could easily be situations where that
Sure,
happens,
but in the Marvel universe, you can make up anything as a clone. It's from an alternate dimension. You can say anything. There's no rules
they have tons of
it.
dark
It's a
versions
deck building
of heroes
game.
and
You
stuff
can
like
make
that
up
as well.
anything you want.
Well, no, but I do like the deck building
nonsensical.
aspect of it a lot. I will say that when Champions came on the scene, I was like, ooh. Even though Champions has not as much theme as it could, maybe.
Oh, for sure.
It still felt like, oh, wow. So that's what it's like to actually play them. I've always been justifying this. Well, it's a team, and I played a Spider-Man card. That was Spider-Man coming in and punching it, then he ran away.
Right.
And I don't mind that because I like the game so much. It's a fun game for me that has a lot of Marvel characters in it. And the Marvel characters had the special abilities. My biggest concern with Champions is the whole LCG thing. I know it seems like an odd thing, but it seems like anytime an LCG comes out, I'm excited, I enjoy it, and then I'm immediately surpassed by the people who enjoy it.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
So I played a game with Roy recently, and if Roy hadn't been there, I would have probably lost. But he's like, well, you could do this combo, you can do this, and he knows the game inside out.
Yes.
And I would feel like I would be dragging the team down almost. While with the deck builder, it doesn't matter what set they add in Marvel Legendary. But here, each one, it's kind of like, well, these are the cards that you should have. So that kind of scares me a bit to it, maybe.
I think another positive of that system, though, is you can play solo. I don't know if you can play Marvel Legendary
You can play
solo.
Marvel Legendary solo as well.
Yeah?
I've played it solo.
It just doesn't sound as
It's a little bit more
engaging.
It's a little bit more random as you're doing it. You're just kind of playing a deck builder by yourself against the bad guy. But it is kind of cool to see how some of the combos work. But it can make it a little bit easier because there's not as much bad stuff coming out. It's always your turn. You get to build up faster.
Oh yes, even though I do like Marvel Legendary a lot, it clearly is not going to ever make a list of games that scale well.
No.
Ever.
No.
It is way harder. I won't play with 5. I don't even know if you can win with 5.
It's hard.
And 4 is really hard. It's the fewer players, easier. They did not do a good job at scaling it.
Yeah, I mean, when I played with the higher player counts, you just kind of have to play with the weaker masterminds because it just takes so much longer to get your deck built up. It's a deck building game, and if the bad guys are piling stuff on you before people have changed out more than 2 cards in their deck, they're not going to be able to do a whole lot.
Yeah.
Right.
We all know which one you like better.
Well, I actually really enjoy both these games. I feel like I've played both these games a ton. Like I played Marvel Legendary.
Yeah,
I
we're
played
on
Marvel
opposite
Legendary a ton. I have like
we sat in the right order.
I have everything for Marvel Legendary. I'm pretty sure I have things that even you didn't even keep. Like I have like the Deadpool stuff and all sorts of stuff. Like there's just lots of crazy stuff. I've had so much fun playing Marvel Legendary with my game group. I really enjoy deck building, and apart from like what Mike said, I grew up with CCGs and LCGs and all this stuff, and I love building building decks and like figuring out ways to build out all these crazy combos in card games. So Legendary really scratched that itch. But when Champions came out, I haven't had as much time to play it because it just came out. Yeah. But at first I was kind of skeptical because I enjoyed the Arkham Horror LCG so much, and this didn't have the story. But the more I played it, the more I saw, oh man, this is really easy. I can just have a deck and then a bad guy deck, and I just throw it on the table, and it's really easy to play. It's a lot more fun to play solo, whereas it feels kind of random when you're playing Marvel Legendary solo.
What I'm thinking, yeah.
When you play Champion solo, you can have your deck that you built, and then you can be
Spider-Man,
like, okay, cool.
You can be whoever, you know.
It feels like you actually get to make more decisions instead of just like, okay, cool, I obviously buy this card, I put this card in my deck, I hope it comes out in the right combo. In this game, you can be like, I could play this card or this card, I'm specifically choosing to play this card because I need to get it out first, and it feels like there's a lot more stronger choices in the game. As far as Marvel Legendary goes, I always played it cooperatively. That's the way I enjoy it. I know that we're probably getting comments where there's going to be some people being like, it's not a cooperative game, it's a competitive game. No. Anybody that really enjoys Marvel Legendary played it cooperatively.
I agree.
And I mean, we barely even count the points at the end. We just do the whole Legolas and Gimli thing, like, oh, I got more heads than you, ha ha ha. We still beat the bad guy, you know.
Right.
But I've enjoyed both games a lot. I enjoy Champions more at this point, I think, and I feel like as time goes by, I'm going to enjoy Champions even more just because there's so much more content for the game as things are coming out and there's ways to deck build and min-max all of that stuff.
I gotta say, I feel like almost I'm fighting a losing battle when I say I like Legendary better. I like it better, but it's harder to justify it. Like, Champions has a lot of legs up on it.
I feel like it'll be more casual, right?
Well, it has,
I doubt.
no, but see, that's one of my negatives. I'm worried that it won't be as casual.
No.
I do not.
No, I mean, I think that Legendary will be more casual, is what I mean.
Yes.
Right.
I'm sorry. Yes,
sure.
yes.
Yeah.
I do think Legendary is more casual. The other game, especially, again, I'm kind of looking at it as a solo experience mostly. I think it gives you more thematic ties to what's going on, but on the flip side of that is also less thematic, mechanically speaking. Like, it's a much puzzlier game, it seems to me.
Oh, yeah.
You are solving a riddle, you know, to not to steal from the other side, but and so
riddle me this,
while
Spider-Man.
I do feel like the idea between like, oh, I'm Peter Parker, oh, I got to deal with actual problems. Okay, I'm switching to Spider-Man. I get to do my thing. There's also clear correct answers and incorrect answers as to what you should do.
Yeah.
That is a little scary to me because I could, you know, there could be somebody who's played 20 times watching me play and laughing like a maniac because I'm fumbling like a kid, you know?
I also do wonder, to piggyback off that, and I don't throw this around lightly because I oftentimes have very little patience for people who say something is solvable, but I do wonder if Champions is a little bit more towards that side of the equation than something like Legendary, where once you know the deck very well, especially if you've built that deck, you know, to work a particular way, do you feel like you have, and I'm asking you because you've played it a bunch, do you think the difficulty is where it should be? I mean, do you feel like once you've built a deck and you feel comfortable with it, do you think you're going to win 90% of the time?
It really depends on the hero you play and the difficulty you play against the bad guy. I mean, that the different bad guys that they have so far range in difficulty strongly. Like, you can play against Rhino, he's pretty easy.
Right.
But it also depends on which hero you bring to the fight. Like, some heroes are going to be better at taking out minions, and some heroes are going to be better at dealing with the threat. And depending on which bad guy you're fighting against, they're going to do more or less of this or that. So, and that's one of the things that I really enjoy about the game is that they've made it so that it doesn't feel like it's the same thing every time. Marvel Legendary very much feels like we got to hit this guy enough times to kill him. In Champions, the game has just come out, and it's like, oh, now we're fighting 4 guys. Now we're fighting a guy that's flipping back and forth, and you want to hit him, but then you got to pull your punches, and you hit him again, because if you hit him at the wrong time, he's going to do more damage to you. They've already diversified the way the game feels when you're playing it, and it's only been out for less than a year already.
Right. It clearly seems like it's a more versatile system just because of the structure of the mechanics.
Right.
And with Legendary, it's deck building, and we've already talked a little bit about how it's difficult, at least it seems to be difficult, to iterate off that system too much. You can put deck building into other types of games, but Legendary is a deck building game.
Right. Sure, and even at its final core, when I play with everything and add in the new stuff that they keep adding, it's still a deck building
It's a deck
game.
builder, right?
And there are some very clear advantages, even though I like Legendary better. I think Champions has much better art.
Yes, clearly.
Legendary started, unfortunately, with a lower end of art. I was pretty happy with it till they came out with the first expansion. And I was like, oh, that's better art.
And it's not duplicating anymore.
Right.
You have different art on all the cards. That's really
Even
cool.
still, though, they didn't like each scheme has the same art. They could have easily changed that, and it felt, especially from a company like Upper Deck, which has access to so much.
Oh yeah, for sure.
And they didn't do that. That's problematic. And then also, setup time is a bear. All right, I love the game, but when I sit there, I'm like, all right, so we need this many. This villain needs this specific group to go with him. I'm going to play with this scheme. It's a bit of work. Now, you know, it's not so onerous that I won't do it. It's a good time, but it's problematic. Again, I think it comes back to the fact I just like deck builders.
Yeah. It's been the whole like tearing down and putting together thing so hard that I've actually like set everything up, like shuffled the decks together beforehand, and then taken that to an event to like be like, okay, let's play. I've already have the characters picked out. I already have the villains picked out.
Even for number of players.
Well, I would slightly adjust that, you know? It's like you could take a villain or a nemesis set out or whatever, but like just having it all together already, then be like, okay, take this to game day, this is what we're playing, now I can play Legendary quickly. Champions is not like that at all. It's like, you get a deck, you get a deck, you get a deck, we're fighting this bad guy, let's play. And then afterwards, you have to like, with Legendary, you have to separate every little card out afterwards just so you can get it all separated
I
out.
was even thinking
It's
about
rough.
that. It's making me want to stay even farther away from it. No.
I think at the end of the day, though, both games are bits of money sinks. I think both companies are going to milk them to the core, which at the beginning is really good, and near the end it's going to feel stretchy. And I think Fantasy Flight's going to fall in that. There's going to come a point where you're going to go, well, this deck isn't really that different than others. I might be wrong on that, but I feel like that's where it's going to end up at some point.
They both lean heavily on their intellectual property.
Yes.
Yeah.
That's a big part of why they've been successful so far, why they've, why we're talking about them. So I think they both utilize it well as far as mechanically going to distinct places. I'd put my money, given the same time frame, on Marvel Champions. Like you said, even in a truncated time frame, they've done more.
Right.
Well, we'll see. These aren't the only superhero games in town. They're two of the biggest for sure when it comes to Marvel. But we got another one coming on the scene later this year from Command Games. That's Marvel United, right?
Correct.
Yes.
And that's another card game, so with miniatures involved. So we'll see how that one lands. And of course,
There are no DC games, right? That's not.
There have been.
Dice Masters, but Dice Masters is a very different thing.
There's the DC deck builder that I'm sure you all love.
All right. That would have been a much easier video for me to do. Like Marvel
for sure.
DC, I'd been like, all right, I got this. But a lot of people have asked us about these, and at the end of the day, it's going to come down to a personal preference. I feel like I think Roy's more of an exception that he likes both a lot.
I like both a lot.
I feel pretty confident people are going to gravitate towards one or the other based on the style of how you like to play.
Yes.
Yeah.
I agree.
There's also the availability issue right now of Marvel Champions is getting very hard to find. You're going to be, if you're entering that market wanting to collect those decks of cards, you're competing with people.
Even more specifically if you want to play a certain character.
Yeah. So there is that. If you like jumping into something new and you like the wealth of content available, then Legendary might be a good one to consider. Again, assuming you haven't played either one.
Right.
So once you've played it, core set, whatever, you realize you like it, you can just look through a catalog of content, hope it's available, and get specifically what you want.
Easy enough. Vote in the comments. Let us know which one you like better, or if you don't like either, like Curmudgeon Mike.
I wouldn't say, they're just, there are many other games I'd rather play.
If you like Legendary better, give it a thumbs up. And if you like Marvel Champions better, give it a thumbs up.
And we'll count the thumbs.
That's right.
Well, no, it's subscribe if you like one better.
Oh, jeez.
Alrighty. Thank you guys for watching. Until next time, I'm Tom Vassell.
I'm Z Garcia. Thanks.
I'm Mike Delisio.
And I'm Roy Candy.
Have fun gaming. Excelsior.